Coming up next, a crash course top 5 of the greatest tracks from one of rock's heaviest bands. A band that had 3 different singers over the course of their tenure, mind you, and in the process, it created some of the best hard rock of the last 50 years for sure. Now, fans fight about what era was their best. I want to hear what you think. But no one can deny the one powerful presence that linked all the eras together. Their otherworldly guitarists. Today, we feature the 5 greatest tracks that all should have been hits, but they were never released as singles. It's the best hidden gems from this band, including a song that their guitarist was so excited about writing, he called up and woke the singer up at 4 a.m. and coaxed him to write it half asleep over the phone. This guitar on the song was so epic and all-encompassing, the singer had no clue where to sing because there was no break. Plus another that made rock and roll dangerous all over again after disco had taken over. We have the classics and a special guest coming up next. And you know what? You're going to love it. Professor of Rock. Hey, music junkies. Professor of Rock, always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time, especially when we're talking about Van Halen. Make sure to subscribe below. If music's running through your veins, be a part of this exclusive community, interviews, stories, videos of the rock and roll era. This week on our Hidden Gems series, we're going to take a swing at one of the greatest bands in history and one of my personal favorites ever, if you can't tell. The mighty Van Halen. We lost the great one, King Edward. Doesn't get any easier, but his genius lives on through the incredible music that he left us. So let's get into our Van Halen Hidden Gems Fiver. And make sure to tell us your Van Halen Hidden Gems Fiver in the comments below. I'd love to hear it. Number 5, we launch it off with a barn burner from the band's 1988 album, OU812, the 7-minute party crash on the beach called Cabo Wabo, the second Van Halen album fronted by Sammy Hagar at lead vocals. We just covered this album in pretty good detail a couple of weeks ago, and I said we'd come back to Cabo Wabo. Here we are. The song, of course, came before the famous restaurant and nightclub that Sammy opened with Michael Anthony and Eddie Van Halen as 2 of his business partners in 1990. The Red Rocker coined the phrase Cabo Wabo after watching an inebriated man staggering down a beach in Cabo San Lucas, Mexico after a heavy night of partying. The vision of that wobbly drunkard is memorialized in Sammy's chorus. Let me take you down. I will show you all around. Let me take you down, face down in Cabo, kissing the ground. Sammy was fascinated by the Cabo San Lucas experience, and he turned Cabo Wabo, the venue, into one of the world's most popular cantinas. The term Cabo Wabo that Sammy invented has actually pierced the pop culture vernacular to describe a non-stop south of the border fiesta. Cabo Wabo, the song, is a flat-out good time Van Halen rocker that perpetually obliterates the doldrums and puts you in a jovial mood no matter what. Phenomenal background vocals. Of course, Sammy's skull-cracking lead vocal and Eddie's driving guitar makes Cabo Wabo one of the best tracks of the late 80s for this band. Sammy's Cabo Wabo Cantina is still rocking. Sammy even started his own tequila company, as many of you know. He later sold it. The Red Rocker's always been an entrepreneur, and I asked him about this in our interview. Here's what he said about it.
I don't like taking the money and giving it to some guy and say, can you double this for me? Where's that money coming from? Like, somebody must have got screwed for me to get double my money. I don't want to get in that game. So I just started coming up with business ideas as ways to put my money. Building apartment buildings. People have a place to live. I make money, right? Then I just started. I got into bicycles, so I built a couple bike stores. And it was just really instincts. Went to Mexico, fell in love with it, bought a house down there, built a cantina, the Cabo Wabo. Said, wait, this is tequila. I need my own tequila. Started my own tequila just for the cantina. Next thing I know, it explodes. I'm the luckiest guy in the world. First of all, I'm not the smartest student. Hard worker, yes. I'll outwork anybody. But outsmarting them, nah, I'll put my luck on the line there.
Number 4, begins with Diamond Dave and EVH staging the image of the two of them sitting on the front porch just kicking and singing the blues. She said, "I think you're headed for a whole lot of trouble if you take your whiskey home." An irresistibly cool track found on the 1980 album Women and Children First.
Well, my baby.
Take Your Whiskey Home mutates from blues to boogie woogie to a backyard BYOB rocker. Going into the recording sessions for Women and Children First, Take Your Whiskey Home was an older song from their early club days that the band hadn't cut yet. The song fell out of favor with Eddie, actually, because he felt that it was dated and that the band had moved beyond the early material. But the other three band members insisted on including it on Women and Children First. The compromise was to freshen up the tune with a bluesy intro for the album that worked incredibly well.
Better than the rest. And she said, "I think that you're headed for."
DLR relished the opportunity to channel his love for classic blues on Take Your Whiskey Home, delivering a raspy, just soulful vocal that includes his signature banshee shriek.
She wants a good life, all the best.
It's one of my favorite Diamond Dave vocals ever. He is so freaking cool on this song. Go back and listen. Take Your Whiskey Home features several deadly, completely deadly Eddie solos as well, capturing a lovable old school Van Halen sound. It's a perfect example of why Van Halen is so beloved. It's just laid back, bluesy Van Halen goodness. Oh, God bless Eddie Van Halen. Number 3, the title track from 5150 that showcases some of the many elements that make Van Halen just the preeminent act that they are. Regardless of whether it's Diamond Dave or the Red Rocker at the microphonic helm, on 5150, we hear some of the tastiest EVH shredding ever. It's inspired playing for sure, along with brother Alex's underrated percussive interlace. Alex really shines on 5150, adroitly setting up and transitioning the track's multiple change-ups, and there's many. Hagar's vocal is brimming with passion and melodic acuity. His performance on the entire 5150 record exuded really his excitement about joining Van Halen and the opportunity to play with otherworldly musicians, including the Genius. The climax of the 5150 track is when Sammy, Eddie, and Michael Anthony team up for that euphoric 3-part harmony on the I'll Meet You Halfway reprise. Of course, a compelling high-decibel Hagar scream that happens in the waning seconds for good measure. Such an incredible song. I discussed this with Sammy at length. Here's Sammy on 5150.
We went to New York for the MTV Music Awards, and we were going to make the announcement. So we get to New York, and Eddie calls me first night, 4:00 in the morning. This is before I realized Eddie did that stuff to you. I'm going, what? It must be an emergency. You got to pick it up, right? Oh, Eddie. Hey, dude, man, listen. No. I say, Ed, wait, whoa, say about me. And he goes, no, listen. I'm listening. He has an electric guitar with no amp. And he starts playing. And he plays, and I'm listening. I'm going, wow. And I'm thinking, well, I'll come and sing in here. He goes, can I come down to your room? I said, oh, okay, come on down. He comes down. And so we're sitting there, and I'm going, yeah, I'll come and sing. No, not yet. Hit this big, long intro on that thing that was so long. It was a song in itself, right? But it was so bad. It was killing. And I didn't know where the one was, because Eddie plays everything. It sounds like, like you go, dun, 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 dun. That's the way I would think that was the one. But it's like one, and it's all on the up. And I didn't realize that also about his record. We were just starting to write, but we hadn't done. And so he puts his foot on my foot, and he's tapping, on my foot. And he's going, and I'm going, I I called it 5150 instantly out of the box, which was the name of his studio. And once I had a title like that, because I thought, I call it 5150, which is a police code for crazy people. I thought only a crazy person could write a piece of music like this.
Right. Number 2, from the 1982 album Diver Down, David Lee Roth and Eddie Van Halen at their best, Little Guitars. Eddie kicks off this jam with a lightning-quick acoustic flamenco-flavored riff with elegance, passion, and amore. An 80s Malaguena, if you will. The interlude was performed by only one musician, the genius, Edward Van Halen. Eddie pulled off the acoustic intro by using the right hand to pick a single note trill on the high E string, while using his left hand to play the melody on the A and D strings using hammer-ons and pull-offs. It was another just stellar example of his gifted ambidextrousness. The Little Guitars intro is so mind-blowing. Everyone thought that Eddie had overdubbed his guitar solo, but then he would answer his skeptics by demonstrating exactly how he did it. Eddie made it known if there is a sound in his head that he wants to use in a song, he will find a way to emulate it. After listening to some records by renowned flamenco guitarist Carlos Montoya, Eddie found the inspiration for how he imagined the opening of Little Guitars. Eddie created a similar piece on Van Halen 2, Spanish Fly. Little Guitars is also the only Van Halen recording where Eddie used a mini Les Paul. That's how they came up with the title of the tune, actually. The mini Les Paul that Eddie used on Little Guitars is a few inches longer than your forearm to the tip of your middle finger. Like many of the guitars that Eddie played, it was custom made. That particular mini Les Paul was made especially for Eddie by Nashville designer Dave Petulid. The lyrics for Little Guitars had nothing to do with the title, but the words were inspired by the intro. David Lee heard Eddie's Spanish riff and thought it sounded very Mexican, so he wrote the lyrics around a señorita as his object of desire. Señorita, I'm in trouble again and I can't get free. Señorita, you're exactly what the doctor ordered. Come on, talk to me. I can't crow before I'm out of the woods. It's one of those songs that by the time you're like 80% of the way through it, you're already planning on listening to it again. That's how great it is. I can't tell you how many times I've been listening to this song. I just shake my head in disbelief. How can a band be this good? How can a band be this undeniably cool? If you haven't heard this song, go listen to it as soon as possible. It will become your new favorite song. It really will. I remember about a year ago, my kids were listening to Shawn Mendes and they're saying, Dad, you have to hear this song. Come in here, So they're showing it to me. And I made a deal with them, though, that I'd listen to their song if I could share one of my songs with them. And they agreed. And my 9-year-old even said, Dad, let's make it a contest. Who's the best? What's the best song? Well, I listened to their song and then I played this song, Little Guitars. By the time we were about like 70% of the way through it, this mind-blowing Van Halen classic, it not only won my kids over, my 9-year-old excitedly announced that Van Halen was the winner by far. They were begging me to learn guitar after that, take guitar lessons. It's just such a feel-good song. And our number one song, drum roll please, Mean Street. Not to be confused with the 1973 Martin Scorsese film Mean Street starring Robert De Niro. This Van Halen hidden gem came 8 years later with a slightly different title as the first cut on the band's 4th studio LP, Fair Warning. Fair Warning may have been the weakest seller of the DLR era, but Mean Street is one of the most chilling in the entire Van Halen arsenal. Mean Street is foreboding, dark, and angry. One of the best agents for Eddie's deadly weapon, dexterity, and his light speed velocity, Mean Street fades up to the scene of the crime with Eddie unleashing his formidable finger-tapping intro. According to the man himself, the insane beginning to Mean Street was founded from slap funk bass, with Eddie tapping on the 12th fret of the low E and on the 12th fret of the high E simultaneously, muffling both chords with his left hand down by the nut. Diamond Dave delivers an unmerciful grittiness on Mean Street. When one listens to Dave's vocal and follows the track's storyline, you can almost taste the blood and feel the bruises of a back alley melee. And this desperate part of town turns you from hunted into hunter. You're going to hunt somebody down. Somebody said, fair warning, Lord, Lord, strike that poor boy down.
Lord, strike that poor boy down.
Just incredible. Great lyrics. The instrumental arrangement of Mean Street is skillfully executed, with Alex Van Halen and Michael Anthony teaming up for a fat rhythmic groove, twisting and turning around those badass EVH guitar licks. Man, Eddie's guitar solo in Mean Street is a raging explosion that just demonstrates how powerfully a guitar riff can dramatize a musical composition with an attack of pure raw intensity. The lyrics for Mean Street were scrolled as wall graffiti on the sleeve of the original vinyl package, if you remember, accentuating the roughneck motif of the Fair Warning album cover. Great album cover. Mean Street was originally titled Voodoo Queen, with a completely different lyric sheet and minus the slapping intro. It's so classic. It's just so grandiose, so epic, so Eddie Van Halen. Now, I know we just covered this one about a month ago, but it is undeniable, and it made rock dangerous all over again in the era of disco. And honestly, between Van Halen, Boston, and the Cars, they wiped disco off the face of the earth. A little bit of My Sharon in there for good measure as well. So there you have it. 5 hidden gems from America's band, the mighty Van Halen.
It's always here now, my friend. It ain't once upon a time.
Leave us a comment about this legendary band. What is your Van Halen Hidden Gems 5? Or also tell me, why do you love these songs so much? I want to hear about it in the comments. If you dig our content, we do invite you to subscribe to be part of this community of music celebration. To get this album or other Van Halen merchandise, click on the links below. Help us keep the music alive. Until next time, 3 chords and the truth, my friends. Stay safe out there.